There's a lot of great things here. I would, though, I'm not seeing the company grew to like $300 billion here. So I would definitely highlight all the billions because the billions are really big numbers. Today, we're going to be doing a LinkedIn review for Marc Benioff. Now, you may be thinking, why would Marc Benioff need for me to do a LinkedIn review for him? Right? Well, we're going to get into that. And the reality is that yesterday, he posted on LinkedIn for the very first time. This triggers a lot of indicators for me, one of them being that if you've worked for a company for 25 years, like Marc has worked for Salesforce for 25 years, some would say he didn't work for it because he founded it, but let's just say he worked for it. So usually when you see somebody who's worked for a company for 25 years, then they suddenly start posting on LinkedIn and updating their profile. That typically means they're looking for a new job. So let's just assume Marc is looking for a new job, and that's why I'm checking out his LinkedIn profile. And truth be told, there is some work to be done here. So we're going to go over that today. And then I'm going to check out his post and just have a couple of tips that might help his next post perform a little bit better, even though this one did pretty good, really well compared to what I think most people are looking for, but we can do a little better. I'll talk a little bit about the LinkedIn posting algorithm and then also how to clean up this profile. So let's get started. All right, I'm going to jog through this pretty quickly, but it's going to take a moment. Number one, I like to look at the images. The picture for the profile, it's crisp, it's high quality, it's very approachable, good profile picture. 10 out of 10. Now I'm going to switch over to the LinkedIn banner. Now, what catches my eye here is like, yeah, it's catchy. It's got good colors. It's really approachable, but it's all about Salesforce. And this isn't Salesforce's LinkedIn page. This is your page, Marc. So you really want to focus on highlighting yourself and the value that you bring as a candidate, right? Because you're going to have recruiters and hiring managers. I'm not sure how good your network is or if you've done much networking in the last 25 years. But assuming you haven't, we need recruiters and hiring managers to really care a lot about your profile and get a feel for who you are. So we're highlighting Salesforce, we're highlighting Agentforce. And when we highlight our company, that can be really good. But now that you're on the job hunt, I'm assuming, we need to focus on the value you bring. So I think we could keep the background and the colors, and you can even keep Salesforce in your banner because the logo, right? Like people know it's an awesome company. So having worked there is going to give you a lot of clout as you move into your next role. And I would just remove the Agentforce, wasn't meant to be a little symbol, and just put things about you. Maybe think of it as your banner on the side of the road, like that big on the side of the interstate billboard. And so what would you say about yourself? And I would focus more on the value you've brought, like that you've been able to, as the founder of a company, grow a small company to a $300 billion company, right? Like that's a really great quantifiable thing that we can latch onto. Maybe 25 years in the tech and CRM space. I'm sure that you could come up with 3 or 4 really great things that highlight your value. Definitely do that. Put those in your LinkedIn banner. You can use a tool like Canva, really easy to use. Maybe even talk to somebody at the marketing team at Salesforce and they could create a banner for you. And you could probably come up with something really sharp for the job search. So coming down, again, we're going to talk about getting away from this company branding and more to your own branding. So I know this is your bio, but really just having a link to maybe your own personal portfolio or something like that could be really helpful. You have a lot of followers. That's great. I did request to connect with you a few days ago, but you haven't accepted that yet. Definitely, it's good to go ahead and accept connection requests from people in your network. That way they can open you up to more opportunities. Getting down to your about section, I'm not going to spend too much time here, but what I will say is that I'm typically looking for numbers, right? I'm looking for that quantifiable information for a job seeker. And named Innovator of the Decade is really, really cool by Forbes. Like that's really nice. And that's one of those things that shows that you're a high performer, right? And that's what we're looking for is that high performer. I would say while we're here, when you're interviewing and somebody says like, hey, tell me a little something about yourself, it might be good to mention that you were Innovator of the Decade by Forbes. That could really stand out and pique their interest. So there's a lot of great things here. I would, though, I'm not seeing the company grew to like $300 billion here. So I would definitely highlight all the billions because the billions are really big numbers, especially when we talk about growing startup companies. So if other startups potentially felt that you could grow their company to hundreds of billions of dollars, that's something you could really highlight here. And again, kind of like Innovator of the Decade, it's really going to pique their interest. Hiring teams are definitely going to want you, and the higher salary range too, for sure. Featured is a great part of LinkedIn. However, again, this is highlighting you to an extent. I like these because they highlight you and the company, so it still shows your value. But be careful with like this one. Agent Force is here. I don't really see much about the value you bring or what you're doing here. So definitely make sure, yes, you can highlight wins at your company that you're directly involved in. But some of these other ones, maybe just a link to your resume, or a link to your portfolio, or a link to just you introducing yourself. That can really bring that organic feel, let people know kind of how you are as a person, and that can let them know if you are really a good fit for their company. All right, so coming down activity, one post in the last 25 years is not the best for getting that traction that you're really looking for. We'll talk more about this post in a minute. But this is good. This is good stuff. But the experience, we really have to build it out. Like, we only have 3 jobs we've ever worked at, it appears. And so that could be a little, dangerous for companies who are evaluating you. Like, you only have 3 companies you've worked for. Now, given it's been 40 years, right? Like, we have 40 years of work experience, and they are also very well-known companies. But what I would do is I would try to make sure I'm highlighting the impact I had at those companies. And what I would say is, so I would say problem, solution, outcome could be a good fit for you. You could say, hey, maybe Oracle was experiencing this problem. Here's the solution that me or my team put together. Here's the outcome from that solution. You could also use it at Salesforce, right? Like, we had this problem, we had this solution, we had this outcome. And for you, that could be, I'll go back to the billions, right? All of the billions. And we could say, hey, we have this problem where we weren't a $300 billion company. And then I and my team orchestrated this situation at the company clouds. Maybe it was the different clouds. And then we could say, okay, and then by implementing that solution, the outcome was all of the billions. And that can be really impressive when you're putting yourself out there. Education, totally fine. No need to put anything under that. It's from the 80s, so we're not going to focus too much on the education side. It's really your work experience and performance, as we know. I did notice that you, it looks like, have 5 recommendations, and the latest one is from 2008. So the best way to get more recommendations is to give more recommendations. So I would say just go on LinkedIn, give some recommendations on other people's profile, and odds are they'll give you a recommendation too if they enjoyed working with you. So that's pretty much it for the LinkedIn profile. And we can hop over now to the post. I've got a few tips for this post and then posts in the future to get a little bit more bang for your buck. So let's check that out. All right. So the post, we kick it off. It's great. You've definitely gotten good traction. I saw you had like 70,000 followers and you got 12,000 likes and 500 comments so far, and a lot of reposts too. And those reposts are really going to help the algorithm. So when we think about the algorithm, what's really going to help are these 3 indicators. They're making it really clear to us, right? Like, even likes are going to get our post out to more people. Reposts are going to massively get us out to more people, and comments are going to help as well. So this is really good. You've got some really good traction. It might be that the algorithm is just working in your favor because it is your first post. So kind of like beginner's luck or something like that. Who knows? Right here, I would say my first post on LinkedIn ever. It's kind of drawing attention to the fact that you're not active on LinkedIn. So I might stay away from that and just start with I'm excited, right? We don't need to draw attention to things that maybe we feel a little bit inadequate about, or that we're trying to protect or shield because it's our first time doing something. We don't have to say that. Just come in, own it, and just say, I'm excited to announce, right? So that's really good. Again, first post, it's all about the company you work for. It'd be really cool to see it more about you than the company that you work for, right? But I get it. It can feel a little odd to talk about yourself in public, especially on social media. So starting by a little bit more of that shielding of talking about your company instead of yourself, I get it. But we do want to branch out into talking about ourselves a little more. Now, you're still in the early portion of this post. So we're only 15 hours in. So we still have some time to implement some of these tips. You could even edit the post. It's going to say edit it anyway, right? Like the post was already edited. So now we can come in and we can probably just go ahead and take out that my first ever post. And then it's like it never happened, right? It got edited away. You're welcome. No problem. So coming through here, what you can do is you're going to want to respond to people who comment on your post, and especially when they post positively, right? Like the winner of LinkedIn's best ever first post. Like, wow, that's really, I might even put that on my resume, like the winner of the first post. And then you could go ahead and reply here and say, hey, thank you so much. Like, that's really humbling. Your company, I would definitely recommend replying to your company and maybe just saying something about how much you love working here, because they could sort of be tipped off if they notice you're now getting more active on LinkedIn. It could mean that, yeah, they're excited that you're posting about Salesforce, but that also they might sort of be realizing Marc could be building up his network for a move, right? Because LinkedIn is a social media platform for careers. So they could be noticing that. So I would just reply and say, oh, I love working with you guys. I couldn't help but post about your company. You guys are amazing, right? Like that'd be really cool. Again, focus on the positive stuff. Love this, fight on, go ahead and connect with these people, right? Like if you're not connected, I would go ahead and connect with them. These are the kind of people who are going to be really active in your network and they want to see you post. And when they see you post, it's really positive feedback. So I would go ahead and connect with them because then they'll see more of your content because you're a first connection. And then they'll post more, or they'll comment more, they'll repost, and they'll build up your future posts that you're going to be posting about, right? So you've got a lot of comments here to go through. It's a lot. It probably will take you the better part of the weekend to get through these 500. Could be, maybe even 600 comments by the end of the day, and it'll take a while. It's worth it. Trust me. When you're on the job hunt, it can be really, really beneficial. So I hope that's helpful to you. I hope that's helpful to other people potentially watching this to get feedback about how they can improve their skills and their ability to position themselves on LinkedIn. So thanks a lot. Let me know what you think. Other people, you can let me know what you think as well. And I look forward to seeing you on LinkedIn even more. And don't forget, go ahead and accept my connection request. That way I can see how you're doing and how you're adding these tips to your repertoire.